follow. I can decide that okay, I'm going to change this, right? And I can jump back, but that requires another big motion on my part. There's time and a place for this, but I am better if I can feed in and out of measurement. And I need to be aware of what I am in danger of having occur to me while I'm doing that. I need to take my shield with me. If I'm moving, then I do this and relax. Okay? And unlike the pedal, which very conveniently stays at what's locked for us, Octa is also trying to optimize rate. So the two of us play that chess game, figuring out where this is going to be and what the angle is. Now, Octa, we're here and then in my range, and Octa decides to go for a leg blow. Okay? His head is closer to me because this is basic geometry. My leg is a further angle than the head. So if he's going for the leg, it is closer for me to hit him in the head. Knowing that, you're never going to put his shield because he knows his head is behind him. If we are fighting single sword, right? Now it's like, you want it, right? Because in our art, I get to live with a broken leg. He doesn't get to live without it. So I need to make that happen. And because we are used to being able to hit a leg and be defended, sometimes we forget when we're fighting a single sword, and we're like, oh, the leg's too tempting, I'm not tasting it. So you throw that leg shot anyway, it's like, ah ha ha! But I have to have enough reflexes to know that you're going low for that, I need to just let it happen and hit you in the head. Because I want to block. Because I want to block, I don't want to be struck. But if I spend my energy, he goes to that leg, and I spend my energy doing this, really, right? I've had that moment. All right, what do we got covered on cheat sheet?
We talked about weight transfer.
Octa talked about coming into the blow versus always leading the blow. Okay, so if he's swinging, if I'm here, I've taken away a lot of his power.
So let's start with it as I throw you.
Right, so he's throwing. So I come here, now I've taken away this. And he might short stick me because I won't, right? But he's not, his blow is meant to him here. This is where that power is going to culminate.
As I generate my shot, as I throw it, I'm throwing to impact there.
Right.
So anywhere along this line, depending on how my technique is, if she comes in and catches it, it's just going to stop, and there's not going to be sufficient force to deliver a proper blow. And because of this, if she continues to just move forward, she can even press me or just move past me.
Because I moved into the blow. Come here.
He's got power.
he's got So, go on guard. So with him, and as tall as he is, and you get the folks that are even taller, but you're fine. So, but if he starts to throw, and he's going to throw this wrap over here, right? If I come in here, I can completely negate that. I do not need to touch him with my shield. I understand that we're allowed to place our shields on people. To me personally, I don't want to touch you with my shield because I don't want to turn into this big wrestling game. We are not ACL. I don't want you to whack me with your shield. I don't want to whack you with my shield. My ideal shield work is that you never know I touched your shield. I love it when somebody says, wow, that was a great blow. I couldn't even get my shield over. Well, that would have been because my shield was there. But they don't know, right? So being able to step in, no, you're not going to be step in. that helps. Now if I also step away from it, if he goes to throw and I step this direction, I can take the power off because now I'm at the very end of that, especially a wrap. Because the wraps are fairly specific. Now he can turn his body and follow me, and now that wrap continues to have power. But he has to be able to do that. He has to be balanced and in position and be able to continue to generate that power. If he is static and he cannot move, that blow is a one-off, and he can't do anything else from that. Right.
He's trying to work through some stuff.
He's still doing it wrong. See what he's doing.
So yeah, attacking that hand, especially if you're fighting an offhanded fighter where your shield's not on the correct side. If I'm cheating an angle, see, she just knows she's turning that and keep that. But I have a tendency, if people are throwing wraps at me and not too far to do anything, I like being right here. This is my favorite place to be here, because I like dancing. Now it's about acceleration and who gets range, measure and line.
Right.
It's all about measure and line in there. And I can be here, and I know that I don't throw a wrap like this because I'm too close, but I can throw it here. And I know that my range will be fine, and I can still control the offense of my opponent. I like to drive the bus in. I come in here and relax. Now it's her job to try and hit me, and I've just got this big giant steering wheel. And as long as I just smother everything she can throw, I don't have to worry about it. Now we got this nice measure, and all of a sudden I can create some timing change and accelerate out.
And I also want to get out of there. But if I go slowly, he's going to be following me with that. So if I kind of, right, so I need to be aware of what he's going to do out of that. It's a very dangerous place to sit because now it's back to the fight. And if he's faster than I am, then I'm like, oh, I don't like this. So I'm going to have to work with that. Talk about, we're not going to go a lot into power generation because it is a whole class in and of itself. But we are going to talk a little bit about how our bodies can move and generate that power using your body motion. Part of what we talked about was stance. We talked about staying on the balls with your feet. I also, if you notice when we're moving, our feet are about shoulder width apart. Generally, we're not here. This is actually a weaker position for us in our art because it's harder to move. If you are just fantastic at horse stance and you have amazing thighs, fully for you, it has its moments, but I don't want to live there. If I'm here and I'm moving, my hips are open, which allows me a couple of things. Stand up for a second. Calisthenics. It's been about an hour. They need to stand up anyway. Put your feet together and stand with your knees straight. Okay? Now I want you to move your hips. Note that. Put your feet shoulder width apart. Now move your hips. Okay? Now bend your knees. And now move your hips. Do you see how much motion you get here? Right? You feel the play off your feet of push, 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 right? There's my power. By being able to have that full torque of my body, I can generate a huge amount of power. Go ahead.
So in with that, just to touch on something, we talk about a lot of circles in what we do. Everybody always talks about using your hips. Well, there's a circle here. I generate power with the twist of my foot. I wear the ball of my toe out, slamming this thigh into this side, throw an outside shot, or to throw a snap. So there's a circle here. There's a circle with your knees. I very deliberately practice strengthening my knees and making sure they all are limber. Okay, so there's a circle here. That knee, just by creating the circle and dropping that knee a little bit, can change angle that you don't have to do with your hand. This can stay relaxed as I just drop the knee into a circle. Okay, there's a circle with your hips. My power transfer when I'm throwing comes across a relaxed hip, up through this psoas, and up this side of my body when I'm throwing certain blows. I can track that. I practice in a gunfight like you saw, relaxing that entire place because I'm lazy. I want all of that energy I just generated to come out through my sword. There are times where I have to bleed it by engaging muscle based on poor technique. My opponent didn't stand where they were supposed to. Different things like that. But for the most part, I'm throwing those up in circles all the way up. There's a circle I count in the midsection that's different than your hips. Then you have the shoulder plane, and you even have, there's a little bit of a finish out here in this plane, away from your body, which if you try and control that with muscle, will slow everything down. So it's all about relaxing those circles so that when you generate that force, I mean, I'm not using any muscle. All that's coming out from just an explosive thing. If I try and use muscle, it's way different. It doesn't penetrate. It doesn't, I don't want to wreck your wrist. So when we talk about movement and power generation, it's about, for me, there's a tons of different
But we're not going into it a whole lot.
For me, it's about relaxation. If I can funnel all that power out, it's that explode, relax, lock. it's that slight pop at the end for me, and then it goes back to relax. I have some more stuff on that.
So in your stance, bend your knees, let yourself move. Now let your heels come off the ground as you go. And you can feel that. Now my ball of my feet, right, because if I'm on my heels, I can't get that extra bit. So if I put your weight on your heels and try it, right, you can feel that locking again. If I put it on my toes and let the heels float, now I have a whole lot of stuff I can get. And I'm still balanced, right?
What's that?
This is what we're working on.
Yes.
Do you have a
I
question?
actually have a problem. We were looking at video and I actually turned both my feet simultaneously. Yeah.
On the heels?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing.
Why do you do that?
I have no idea.
Excellent.
Years of practice.
Yes.
Work on that with her later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will.
We will. But that,
Yeah.
that makes a big difference. It also makes a difference in the angle that I can get. Now, one of the things I talk about in my power generation class is that we always hear, you do not put your hips into that blow. You need to turn your hips with that blow. For me, that phrase, I think, probably held me back from 5 years of very good power generation. Because as a female, my hips move completely independently from the rest of me. Right? Generally, that's considered an asset. In this game, it causes difficulty because what I didn't know, because they would say, move your hips, and I would go, ha! Right? Hips move, or ha! And they would go, your power train isn't connected. Freeze the shield, my power train isn't connected. Okay, if I had a nickel, every time I was. So one, I learned, I have ex-squire, was an ex-squire before I was married. We were fighting, I was out playing on the Pell, out in the yard, I was dressed as she is, and he went, you're not engaging your abdomen. What? You need to pull, you hear there's tension, you can feel it. So you stand, put your arm back, here you can feel the tension across here, right? You need to pull with your abdomen and crunch that through. I went, 6 years. Been your freaking squire for 6 years. You couldn't have mentioned this sometime along that path? No? Now it occurs to you? Right? He's like, well, I never watched your abdomen. Because, you know, I'm completely gender neutral as far as my night is concerned, which works really well for training, but didn't work so well as far as watching me actually do the thing. He's like, huh. Because he has amazing muscle and body control with this. And like with Octa, if you watched him do that, you know, he's thinking, I'm putting my whole body into this. If you watch him, his hips barely twitched. Right? So he does that again. And you watch and you're like, okay, we got that little bit. Huh. That's it, right? You're thinking, that's not really good motion. Well, Vivek has that. Oh, that's it. That's all it is. Right? And I'm like, okay, well, you don't move your hips. That's because this entire thing is going, and it's powered down, and suddenly it all comes out his arm.
Sporting it all.
Smacks you in the head. So, I have changed that phrase to, you need to be able to turn your body. My shoulder connects into my hip for that. This becomes a unit, because if this goes first, and some people say, first I turn my knee and my foot and it all flows up. It's like wringing a dish towel. Okay, you wring your dish towels, get back to me. I have found that if I can lock this in for that power generation, now my hips and my shoulders become a unit in the power works. Okay? I do a lot of generating power with these circles. Okay? This centrifugal force becomes very dense because it kind of acts all on its own. It's nice. I can drop this.
And deceptive.
Right, and very deceptive because they all look the same.
I ate one of these yesterday.
Because it drops. Okay? This is not me, by the way, doing this with my sword. This is all the hips. Okay, so the hand is loose. Loose. Okay, grip. My hand is tight. Now this isn't going to move. If I have that loose grip, that's just my hips. Okay? At any point, have I gone out of stance? Am I in a position I cannot fire? No. So this thing drops, I'm still there. It's at the top of its arc. I'm still there. Because all I have to do to make that launch is tighten my hand.
not using any muscle to throw that blow. The muscles are guiding the blow.
Yeah.
Her body is throwing
This
the
is
blow.
hanging out. My whole body makes this go. Right? Cool?
You lock the flat snap and eat the ball and egg. Right? Touch on the gravity and power. So, and with that, I'm a firm believer in whenever you throw a blow, whichever foot it is, depending on the technique you're throwing, you have one foot that's generating the power. If you don't have a foot that's the gravity foot,
You want to sit down
you
and
can
do the
sit
work
down
on
if
it?
you want. You can sit. We can work on it later.
Relax, at ease.
Stand, sit, whatever's comfy. It's like a teardrop from your abdomen. One foot is generating power, and without an anchor to that, you have to use some of that power to hold that blow in. For instance, if I have a blow where I throw a big skyrim, and I like to get in the air, but once that power is generated, that's all there is. There's no more power coming because my feet are going to come off the ground, and I have no anchor for it, so that anchor's in my abdomen. So as that power comes up to throw the blow, my anchor's here, so I have to bleed power off of that. So I have to generate that shot very fluidly, whereas if I'm throwing my snap, my power is generated with that motion, and this foot is the anchor. This foot, everything that this is throwing off of, it has something to anchor to support the whole network. And until you are throwing that on a pel, sometimes it's a hard concept to understand, and it doesn't matter which foot, it's just whichever one is not creating the power is the one holding your body in a position. I used to, as a squire all the time, I'd throw my outside snap and my ankle foot would disappear. And my knight's like, what are you doing? Like, well, that works. I'm trying to get that extra bit. I'm using both feet. And somebody's going to hit you in the face. They haven't yet. And so I kept doing, what?
It looks awesome.
Yeah. What did Rifkin call that?
Flying Octa.
Flying Octa. So I would throw my outside and do that because I didn't have the technique to anchor that foot. Now I've learned how to throw it and keep that foot anchored, keep that thigh anchored, so I even get more speed because I'm throwing this leg into that leg to throw it. And I just bring it all up instead of having this leg shoot out the backside. So it was kind of finding out the marriage for that power and the anchor. But even if this foot's forward and I'm coming for a back shot, it has to anchor. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't move. It just means that I'm throwing, boom, and they come around right before that shot lands, boom, the anchor has to land. Just enough to throw this shot. Explode, relax, lock. But as you get going and going through these techniques, those techniques are taking half a heartbeat, quarter heartbeats to throw. So it's just a momentary grounded bang, now we're back and bringing the power back in. Talk about clutching.
Does anybody have a cross-hilted sword or a sword without a basketball? Anyone? You? A cross-hilted sword or a sword without a basketball?
There's I think it's a great sword though.
No.
That's kind of hard. Let me see if I don't know if I brought a spare.
Just because that way you can see the handle.
The middle
There is a black tape sword over there. Can I use it?
There's some open grilled swords.
Oh, it's amazing. It'll work. Okay, a word about the difference between maces and swords. Maces have a different gravity because they're heavy at the end, and they do not care if you threw with correct technique. They're going, and they'll take your elbow and your wrist with them. So, when you're using a mace, word-wise, if your body is controlling the mace, it's your friend. If you decide to stop this somewhere and your body's not a part of it, it can hurt you. It will rip your arm right out.
Welcome to fighting off.
Yes, and I hope your left hand has been practicing because that's what you're going to do. Because the mace, it does not want to start and stop. It has circles. It likes circles. It's weighted to the end, right? And it does very good for making you learn these things. However, that start and stop thing, less good. You throw that wrap and they duck, you need to follow that through because that pull and stop yanks all those little bitty tendons. Less good. My power generation class in a nutshell. You cover I'm going to give you all these tidbits at once. And if you want to have them more elucidated, we will do so later. Okay, so the Earth, big place. Great place for that gravity well. I can push off that Earth. Okay? So if I'm just, and then you go up the body. So let me talk about just closing your hand. Okay? Just in having that loose grip, or talk about how that allows me to redirect. Just that loose grip. Nothing else. Pretty good power. I'm just lift. Okay? That's just that. That's all that is. Not going to kill you. Probably. Tim might be able to kill you. Okay. So then I have the arm, right? Oh, excellent. Arm gives me a little more power. So I have arm, I have hand. A little more pressure, right? Well, now let me put my body. Arm, power. Right? Now I'm getting some pretty good stuff going on. That's nice. All right, so there is this concept that boxers use called frame weight transfer. Frame weight transfer isn't a big thing. It's little. It is, when I'm boxing, if I take that little bit with my jab, 2, 3, 6. He's a boy. He's a 6. So if I take just that little bit of frame weight transfer, suddenly I've gone from this to taking the entire 165-pound frame and throwing it into you. Just that much. So by using that frame weight transfer, so I have hand, right? I have arm, I have body. Then I add that frame weight transfer. Okay? If my blow does not hit you with sufficient force, it is because I have thrown it with wrong technique. It is because you are out of measure. It is because I have not followed through appropriately. If I throw everything with proper technique, you should never be calling my blow light. When people say, that was light, I know why. I know why. If I'm throwing this offside, and that does not stick, number one reason that does not stick is I did not close my hand when it hit you. Instead, my hand was tight because I got excited. And I closed my hand out here, and it brushed through you. If I wait, and close my hand, that was my arm in my hand. Now I throw everything else. Frame weight transfer. The sink, remember we talked about the sink here? I'm not going forward with this blow. Instead, I've just transferred right there, everything. Same sink, right? So by using that little bit, you can increase your power dramatically. Okay? So I'm going to leave you with that little bit as far as power generation goes. A lot of little pieces to that. That actually, as a very simple concept, those of you who've been fighting for a long time understand how complex that actually is. But those little gems will make a huge difference in your power generation. Because you guys are watching me do this standing right in front of it. If I start moving with that, and I start hitting, I get that transfer, right? It's the turn. It's the drop into there. But I'm still in balls of my feet. So if suddenly I do this big transfer, it jumps me, still on the balls of my feet. I have to have all the pieces. I have to be able to move. I have to be able to generate power. Right? All those things have to occur. So if I'm generating my power by being down here, if I can't move, I've given up a big piece of that equation. I am never going to win crown by accident. Never. Never. It's not going to happen. I won Coronet because I practiced for 6 months. I practiced for 6 weeks every single day, and it sucked. But that is how I won, because I made sure all of these things came together. If I was going to lose that tournament, it wasn't because I wasn't the very best trained person out there. Anyone can die any given Saturday. But I knew that I was the person who beat. I trained, and the rest of them didn't. And that training, that practice perfect, made the difference in how I could actually get to finals and close that. Yeah, anybody could hit me with a fluke shot. My shield could have been out of position. But I knew I was conditioned enough that the possibility of me getting my shield back in place before they could get their shield back in place was much higher. And that's what our game is, a game of inches, a game of moments. fractions of a second. You want to cover anything more on this, or should we release this to lunch?
Very much easier. The only other thing I had in that technique was the sword drill.
Okay, let's leave you with the sword drill. So what we're going to give you the sword drill that Octa has, and then we're going to release you to lunch, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about shield stuff.
Grab your sword and a half gauntlet if you like to use one. Well, you should be using one. Just so it feels right, you can feel any impingement.
That makes a lot more.
Half gallon.
Okay.